I have waited a long time for this moment, my little YouTube friends. At last, the break is no more.
And now we can get started. Yo, peoples, Kyushu92 here, and welcome back to yet another chapter of Solo Leveling. We're off from break, ladies and gentlemen, so it's time to dive into the moment where God Jinwoo is about to face off against Antares after Jin gained full access to his own Susanoo, and now we get to see what happens between the two. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's not beat around the bush here. We've all been looking forward to this next chapter, so let's get it going. Chapter 176. And it shows Jin preparing to go up against Antares. And Antares begins by trying to swipe at Jin. And Jin catches his hand by the wrist and proceeds to deck Antares directly into the face. Like, he caught the wrist and with his empty hand punches Antares in the face. Now, mind you, both Antares and Jin have assumed their other forms. Antares has assumed his dragon form, while Jin has pretty much just gained access to his own shadow god monarch form that he has right now. And he hits Antares in the face. And it almost looks like... Sorry, new phone. Got to get used to the vibrations of it. And as Jin recoils from this attack, it looks like Antares is reeling from this as well. And then he tries to snap at Jin. And he bites into Jin's midsection. Like, his whole mouth just wraps around Jin. And he lifts Jin into the air. And Jin is looking... And he gets thrown into the air. Antares just takes Jin by the midsection and then just throws him into the air. And Jin lands into the distance with a massive thud, just causing massive destruction around the area he falls into. This is a bit of a silent opening right now. There's no words being said, just actions. Actions speak louder than words. And Jin is just reeling from this. Now, mind you, Jin is enormous. He is absolutely massive in this new form that he's taken, to the point where the towers of his castle are minuscule in relative to his size. And as he's looking up from this, apparently Antares' eraser beam just erupts right next to him, and Jin just barely manages to dodge it. Just barely. We see the entire area next to Jin get obliterated as Antares tries to kill him. And then Jin channels some energy into his hand, because here's the thing. Jin got hit by this attack. He actually got hit by it because his right arm is missing with residual energy from Antares' eraser beam. And then he starts gathering energy into his left hand, and he creates like a big gigantic shadow sword and starts rushing Antares. Antares tries to aim his beam at Jin, and Jin's sword, his shadow sword, clashes full on with the beam of Antares, and they both clash against one another. And in this instance, Jin's sword cuts through the beam and then cuts into Antares. Now, mind you, it looks like he slashes Antares here, but we don't see any blood being drawn. And in this instance, Antares' tail comes whipping around and tries to slap into Jin. Well, it doesn't slap into him, and actually does. He slaps Jin away with his tail, and Jin is sent flying again. Then Antares finally takes to the air, because he's been ground-bound this whole time. We haven't seen him go airborne since he came to this island to face off against Jin. Now he finally goes up into the air and launches himself up. And he starts to... Oh, so you mean to tell me that he can take those eraser beams and form like tail beast bombs around him? Because he's floating in the air, and for those same type energy attacks are just oh my goodness. Okay, so there's a there's an attack in Dark Souls 3 that is called Wrath of the Gods, I want to say. I could be entirely wrong. It's been a hot minute since I played Dark Souls 3 because I'm still playing through Demon Souls. I am almost done, so I'm almost ready for Elden Ring. It's an attack where it's a miracle where you cause these pillars of light to just erupt all around you, and it does a certain good amount of damage to, PvE enemies and like that. He pretty much does this same attack. He just, all those orbs of power that he had floating around him just erupt downwards into like Hammer of Dawn rays. And it bombards the area where Jin is supposed to be, but then Antares looks right next to him, and then a large black sword comes hurtling at Antares' side. Yo, and we finally get some damage. We finally get some damage for Antares. The sword goes through him. No, it doesn't go through him. It comes out from the dust where Jin was supposed to be. Sorry, the angle for some of these panels made me think that it was actually coming from the side, but it's actually coming from the ground. The spot where Jin was after he got bombarded by Antares' version of Hammer of Dawn, the sword comes shooting out of that dust. Not coming, but comes shooting out of the dust, and in the process takes out one of Antares' wings. Now, mind you, Antares is still in the air, and he just takes out the wing completely. And then more swords. Oh no, Jin. I'm sorry. Did you see Virgil from Devil May Cry? And did you think his spectral swords was a good enough attack to copy? Because we see numerous swords just floating around him. And this dude just goes full Virgil and has spectral swords just around him. And he starts throwing them at Antares. And Antares is trying to breathe fire, trying to destroy them. Because all of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 swords go shooting up from Jin, and they bombard against Antares' breath attack, his eraser beam. I know it's not the official name of it, but it goes against his eraser beam as it continues to go towards Antares, and the whole area just erupts in both black Air Force energy from Jin, and tons of fire from Antares. The whole island is just enveloped in all of this power. Now, mind you, there still hasn't been a single word spoken. So I hope you guys don't mind if I'm narrating everything that's going on. It's just that nothing is being said. It's just nothing but fighting. And then we see nothing but dust and the wind blowing. And we see Jin, who actually has sustained some hits in this attack, like his astral form or his spiritual manifestation, whichever is the official way to say it. Parts of it is been hit, like some of it is slowly regenerating. Bits and pieces and chunks of them are kind of missing. And then Jin comes out of the form, and he comes back down to the ground while Antares is looking at him. And then Jin finally speaks. Now I can use his voice.
Let me make sure the voice is good. There we go. Okay. It takes an enormous amount of stamina just to maintain a great power.
Then Antares speaks, and he goes back into his human form.
This is my last offer. Do you really not intend to join me?
And then Jin here's the thing. When he came out of his Susanoo form, parts of the black energy that was over his body was only near like his legs down, and he was just bare-chested, dropping out of that form before. And then he says, like, maintaining that power takes a great amount of stamina. Now that black energy is starting to re-envelop Jin again. And then Jin looks good in this battle. It shows Jin partially covered in his monarch power. And he just says, I don't intend on cooperating with a monster. And then Antares, who has even partially transformed himself, like his whole armor has changed. He no longer has like the long bare face he used to have. It looks like a combination of his dragon form and his human form, like dragon armor. Like you see the motifs around his headpiece. His hair is all massive and wild. He's clad in armor now, not like that sleek looking armor he had when he was first introduced. He's now slightly bulkier, still keeping with the overall design of his clothes, but he's now clad in just full on armor, even around his face now. And then he draws a big greatsword from his hand, saying,
How foolish.
and Jin looks at Antares, and Antares looks at him, and they both launch from the area, and they both clash with one another. Antares with his giant red greatsword, and Jin with his Kamish daggers. And then Antares continues to speak to Jin as they're clashing with one another.
The Monarch of Transfiguration and the Army of Destruction is destroying your everything. In the end, you won't be able to protect even at this moment.
In the end, you won't be able to protect. I feel like there should be, in the end, you won't be able to protect anything.
In the end, you won't be able to protect anything. Even at this moment while we are crossing swords, even if you are the king of the dead, as a human, you must fear death.
And as he's still clashing with Jin one after the other. These are some beautifully colored panels. Oh my goodness.
Do you wish for the flame that even incinerates death itself to turn you into ashes? Soon everything you are trying to protect will be nothing more than an illusion.
And he says this with a mad, crazy look on his face. This is the most insane we've ever seen of Antares since his introduction. He looks absolutely crazy now.
Surely you must sense it since you have awakened the powers of Ashborn.
And in this moment, he knocks one of Kamish's daggers from Jin's hand.
The countless cries of suffering in this land and world.
And he stabs into Jin. Yo! He actually stabs into Jin. And there's actually blood. He stabs Jin with his sword.
This is what a war is.
And he sends Jin backwards.
This is the sound of the army of destruction ravaging humanity. Listen to their cries of suffering. Let their despair become contagious and silence everyone.
And as Jin is knelt on the ground, Antares approaches him and has his sword at his neck.
Regret your decision.
And then Jin says, I should be the one saying that. And then Antares does not notice that one of Kamish's daggers is floating behind him. Ruler's authority. And Jin causes it to hit Antares directly in the back as Jin jumps away. But it doesn't actually hit Antares. There's like a field around Antares that keeps the dagger from touching him. And then Antares speaks again.
You thought the dagger made out of a dragon's tooth could harm the king of dragons. Don't you find this amusing? A fight between a flame born within darkness and a darkness born within light.
And Jin lands right next to Antares as he's saying this.
However, it seems this fight is nearing its end.
And Jin says, that's right. I can see the end.
Oh? So did you decide that resistance is futile?
And before anything else is said, Jin rushes him. And then Antares says,
That's right. The army of destruction doesn't right. The army of destruction doesn't even need to fight in this place, since I will raise their morale by beheading you, foolish monarch.
And then Jin says, the sun darkens the shadows. And then all of a sudden, Antares' eyes grow wide. Oh my God! Oh! Oh! In this instant, as Jin is point blank in front of Antares, we see Igris. We see all of his high-ranking shadows just bum rush him the moment he's directly in front of his face, like Minato versus Toby way back in the past, and they're directly in front of each other. Jin is right there in front of Antares, and we see Beru, we see Tank, we see Belion, we see Igris, we see a whole bunch of shadow hands just bear down on Antares, and Antares is just standing there. And he's not saying anything. Then the next panel has him screaming,
You scoundrel! I will rip you to pieces and turn you into Drake food. I will give you a miserable death for resisting against the King of Dragons until the final moment.
And then a crack of energy, like it looks like electricity, erupts from Jin's right hand. Oh, yo! And this panel transitioned from Jin how he is right now to when Jin first started. Like he first started his journey. Like it has him in his hoodie and his long hair and his bandages and everything. Jin before he became who he is right now. It just appears for that brief moment as his first. Oh my goodness! It shows Jin when he's about. Okay, there's so many panels here, and it calls back to so many pivotal moments in Jin's life. It shows Jin as he is right now. It shows Jin as he first started. It shows Ashbourne from the past, and it shows Jin when he first picked up the sword at the beginning of the series. As his arm, as he takes in the first high-ranking dagger that he ever got his hands on, or even the first dagger that he ever got his hands on, it shows him as he's preparing to cut into Antares the different forms and the different appearances of Jin over the course of this whole series. And it appears to end with Jin holding the sword from back before he became who he is right now. Back in the double dungeon and back in the room of the god statue, way back when. And it shows Jin when he first started as it shows Jin completely cutting through Antares straight down the middle. And Jin says, I wonder if you can see your own death. And it shows Jin holding his first dagger. No, it wasn't his first dagger. I'm wrong. I am wrong. Let me correct myself right now. It wasn't his first dagger. It was his dad's dagger. It was his dad's dagger. I was thinking, wow, that dagger kind of looks familiar. And I know it's been a hot minute since I read the chapter that Jin's dad was in. So apologies if I didn't immediately remember it. But Jin appears to have just straight up cut down Antares with his father's own dagger. And then cracks appear across the sky. And cracks in the sky just open up. As it shows Antares, his whole upper half is just split, okay? Antares' upper half is just split down the middle. But cracks and holes in the sky just appear after Jin has done this. And that's the end of the chapter. Nothing but fighting in the beginning, then talking near the end, and then Jin using his father's dagger to just straight up split Antares from top to near bottom in one stroke. Wow. I love this chapter. And now I got to bring my chat back up. Let me see what you, the hood is Jin's father. The hoodie is Jin's father. Hold on. Let me go back because I want to correct myself right here live before I get comments of people saying like, that's not Jin. That's his father. But it actually is his father. So it's Jin in his form that he took covered in, monarch energy at first, pulling his father's dagger out, then appearance of his father pulling the dagger out, then the appearance of Ashbourne holding the dagger, and then the appearance of Jin when he first started his journey towards all this great power, holding the sword he had in his hands before he reawakened. That's all the appearances. Let me correct myself. Thank you guys. I thank you guys for being patient with me. As I correct myself. Way too long, I might say. Okay, so that's the end of the chapter I just read through. That's the end of the chapter. But let me go ahead and correct myself right now. That was Jin, now Jin's father, Ashbourne, and then Jin when he started. But this was a great chapter. Like I said, I hope you guys don't mind if I just narrated what was happening in the chapter because, one, I don't show copyrighted images because I am not trying to get a strike on this channel, and two, there were no words being said at the beginning until near the end when Antares was just trying to like, now will you accept my offer? But this was a great chapter. Oh my goodness. Let me just say hi to everyone. Destruct, Cohagen, Satchet, Ajani, Greenlight, Stardust, Yesam Ramil, Jinwoo, and Jaiswal. Good to see you as well. Julianne, good to see you. I want to see if I can say this. It's only JXZL, but I want to say Jixzil. 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 There it is. Cha Yonwoo, good to see everyone here. This was a great chapter. Random suggestion, see Jin from the start and the one in this chapter. Look at the development. We get that in this chapter. We get how Jin looked from the beginning and now how he looks right now. There has been so much development. So much has transpired since the start of the series. I mean, good Lord. But let me read what all you guys have said. Hi, everyone, and no, it's the same attack as Dark Souls, only Pillar of Light. See, that's what I'm talking about. I'm trying to remember what that attack name is called. It's the one with Pillars of Light from Dark Souls, but I can't remember the name of it at the moment. Hi, bro, CEO of Black Air Force One Energy Sung Drip Woo. That's not Jin, it's Antares. Hey, that's Antares. This chapter is fire. Yes, it is. No, that's his father. The hoodie is Jin's father. That's Jin's dad. That was his father. Don't worry. I don't see live chat while I'm reading because I don't want to risk exposure to any potential spoilers because, sometimes it can happen. So I just read through the chapter entirely. The one in the hoodie. Now I finally understand why Antares and Ashbourne are opposite to each other. The light, the brightness, the darkness, and the darkness, and the light born from the darkness and the darkness that's born from light, all that stuff. Maybe that's what Jinwoo planned from the beginning. He may not win during sunrise or noon, but as his power grows through the darkness due to shadow casted by sun increases. Best chapter? Yeah, it was good. I just hope Antares doesn't go like this, couldn't kill me and strike me again. I think we all agree that Jinwoo's new form is fire. It really is. See, here's the thing. I loved his form. Hold on. I got you. There you go. Sorry about that. I didn't notice that that Cohagen didn't have the link up. He usually has the link up, but he didn't have it up this time. That I just hope that I read a suggestion. What a beautiful chapter. I'm not ready to let go of solo leveling. See, here's the thing. We are nearing the end of this series, ladies and gentlemen. I started this series like a year ago, and I did not think that I would be enjoying it as much as I have. But here we are on what feels like it could be the precipice of the end of the series, and it's like, wow, no more solo leveling once I'm done with this series. It's kind of surreal. Now, mind you, this isn't the final chapter because it appears we still have some way to go. I just feel like I feel like the void that solo leveling is leaving behind is going to be hard to fill, but we'll have to see once I start the beginning after the end if that can match up to solo leveling and the amount of hype I felt reading through this entire series, but we'll just have to see. But this was a good chapter. It was lots of fighting, and then Antares speaking in the last part. Let me just go back up to what he was saying. Like he's just doing he's doing the very thing that causes a villain to lose to the hero. He starts monologuing. Because he's clashing with Jin, and he says, "This is my last offer. Do you really not intend to join me?" And Jin says, "I don't cooperate with monsters." And then Antares says, "How foolish." And as they're clashing, he says, "The Monarch of Transfiguration and the Army of Destruction is destroying your everything," which means that whatever Yogument is doing back home, he's still carrying out whatever plan Antares may have had for him, and that's still going on while he's fighting Jin. And he says, "In the end, you won't be able to protect, even at this moment while we are crossing swords. Even if you are the king of the dead, as a human, you must fear death. Do you wish for the flame that even incinerates death itself to turn you into ashes? Soon everything you are trying to protect will be nothing more than an illusion. Surely you must sense it since you have awakened the powers of Ashbourne. The countless cries of suffering in this land and world. This is what a war is. This is the sound of the army of destruction ravaging humanity. Listen to their cries of suffering. Let their despair become contagious and silence everyone." He just goes on a tirade. I can imagine his voice just being quiet at the beginning and then just getting louder and louder and louder as he just goes off on this big old monologue. "Regret your decision." And then Jin tries to use ruler's authority to stab him in the head, but it doesn't work because there's like a massive field of protection around Antares. And he says, "You thought the dagger made out of a dragon's tooth could harm the king of dragons? Don't you find this amusing? A fight between a flame born within darkness and a darkness born within light. However, it seems this fight is nearing its end." And then Jin says, like, "You're right, I can see the end." And then Antares is all like, "Oh, so did you decide that resistance is futile? That's right, the army of destruction doesn't even need to find this place, since I will raise their morale by beheading you, foolish monarch." And then Jin says the sun darkens the shadows, and then as that happens, we see a whole bunch of different shadow hands and even high-ranking shadows just bear down on Antares. With Antares screaming, "You scoundrel! I will rip you to pieces and turn you into drake food. I will give you a miserable death for resisting against the king of dragons until the final moment." He just goes insane. And then it shows Jin, it shows his father, it shows Ashbourne, and then it shows Sung Jin Woo, level 1, before his awakening at the beginning as he cuts into Antares. And then says, "I wonder if you can see your own death." And as it shows him holding his father's dagger, cracks appear in the sky, and then portals just open. Now, I wouldn't call them portals. It's like the sky actually opens in these cracks. Like holes into their dimension just open up, and that's where the series ends. I'm just telling you guys, this entire series was amazing. Let me see what you said. What if Yogurumon killed all the hunters in the world, including Cha, and when Chu finds out, he'll be so enraged he decides to destroy everything and becomes the new sovereign of destruction? Just if. A man-size if. A massive Susanoo Sungjin Woo size if. Satchet says, I mean, it's number 1 at MAL, my anime list, so solo leveling might be difficult to replace. I don't think he is that strong because he offered the Monarch of Frost to fight Jinwoo. The beginning after the end is one heck of a webtoon, one of the best out there. I'm looking forward to reading it then. The Army of Destruction is doing their thing, which is destroying pretty much everything. But overall, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to keep you here any longer than I already have. This probably will be like a little bit shorter than what I normally do because there wasn't as much reading. It was mainly a fight chapter, which is what a lot of us really look forward to when it comes to these chapters for solo leveling. So overall, this was a fantastic chapter. And what seems to have been the end of Antares. We're going to have to wait until next week to find out where the next chapter goes and what happens. And what happens when, after Jin... And what happens after Jin has completely cut down into Antares and these holes in the sky have completely opened up. We're just going to have to see what happens then. Overall, this was a fire chapter. It's a 10 out of 10. It was just absolutely amazing. Glad. I was actually kind of worried that it was just going to be an entire chapter with no speaking. I was thinking like, oh man, I'm not going to be able to do any voices. I was actually kind of worried. I was actually kind of worried that I wouldn't be able to do any voices. I would just be describing things. I was actually kind of concerned, but I'm thankful. I'm thankful that there were actually some speaking parts in this whole chapter. I'm actually glad. But overall, great chapter. And I was glad I was able to spend these, 32 minutes with you guys reacting to this chapter. Because I noticed that sometimes not everyone stays for the whole thing. So, as long as I can get the main content out for you guys and, that's all that really matters at the end of the day. But this was a great chapter. I'm actually kind of concerned that we haven't heard any more news of that solo leveling game. I heard it was going to be a mobile game, but I'm actually kind of concerned that we haven't heard any more news about that. I need to know about this solo leveling game. Come on, give me the info. I need to know. But overall, good chapter, great chapter. Lots of great choreography in terms of the fighting, even though they're just still images. But the speech and the monologue from Antares, it just shows you just how insane this man is and how he just revels in destruction and the misery of those he inflicts destruction upon. You see that insanity, and you see what happens when you monologue. You give the hero the chance to, counterattack. It happens every single time. I learned this from The Incredibles. If you monologue, you leave yourself open to attack. And monologuing villains tend to end up being dead villains. So Antares has kind of learned the hard way of why you should monologue against the main character. Overall, great chapter. I'm glad I was able to enjoy it with you guys. So that's all I got. I don't want to keep monologuing. The first half of this chapter is basically Pacific Rim. I'm going to have to watch that movie again. That was so good. The first one was far better than the second one. The second one was all like, okay, let's just forget that these people are piloting these giant mechs and just make them super agile for no apparent reason. Let's kill off characters that we all actually enjoy and put up people that we have absolutely no knowledge about just because they're new characters. I hate when they do that in movies, but I'm going to have to watch the first one again. That's what, even though I think Antares is stronger, he lacks skills and believes raw power is enough, whereas Jin relies on tactics. That's the difference, and that's the reason why Jin has been able to have an advantage against Antares and the Monarch of Transfiguration, because his tactics were so different from Ashbourne's that Antares really didn't have a counterplan to it. He was so used to the tactics of Ashbourne each and every time the world was reset, he was used to that. So any deviation from it was a surprise to him. So Jin just shows that, hey, you don't have to... Even a human has the capability of standing toe-to-toe to a godlike being. The series just shows that. But try reading Mushoku Tensei light novel or manga. Is it that the series I've been seeing so much about this guy who I guess gets reborn into like a new world? And I'm trying to remember. It has this one one girl in it. Eris, I think her name is. His name is Rudeus or Rudeus. Rudeus. Is that his name? Is that the series? I've heard a lot about that series. I'll look into it, but I won't guarantee that it will be a series I bring to the channel. Because I heard it's kind of raunchy in some parts. A little bit. Just a bit. Depends. Especially if the light novel has a lot more detail than manga does, so who knows what's in there. Yeah, it's good after all. I'll look into it at the very least. I'll look into it. I know of the series. I just never read any of the chapters or read the light novel, so I know next to nothing aside from clips that have been shown on YouTube. That's all I know. So I'll keep Mushoku Tensei. I saw the chapter again. The dagger was his first dagger. Casca's Fang. Aha! I knew it! I knew it was his first dagger! World building. It's all about character development and world development. World building. I'll look into it at the very least. But let me not keep you here any longer than I already have. I was supposed to end this about 4 minutes ago when I said I was about to stop. So let me stop this right here. Really do hope you all enjoyed my reaction to Solo Leveling today. What a good day for a Solo Leveling chapter. Then we have the Video Game Awards happening tomorrow night, which I am thankful I have the day off, so I get to see all these games get awards and all these 40 to 50 brand new games being shown off. I am hyped for that. So I was glad I was able to have like a good, cool, chill stream of Solo Leveling for you guys today. Then I'm going to be doing another stream tomorrow night when we react to the Video Game Awards, which I will definitely have scheduled for you guys. But I'm thankful that I am able to do this for you. If you're just a person who only shows up for me doing Solo Leveling, I hope you enjoyed yourself. If you're someone here who shows up for everything that I do, then hey, same deal. But that's all I got for you guys, ladies and gentlemen. It is an absolute joy and honor and privilege to be your entertainer. So with that being said, hope y'all enjoyed. Can't wait to see you all in my next video. And if you're new to the channel and you enjoyed what you saw here today, then consider subscribing because I am always looking forward to entertaining you. So have a fantastic day. And once again, as always, later, peoples. Man, I love my job. Have I read the Tokyo Revengers manga? I have not, but I'll add it to the list.